Hello and welcome to this month's Kids Corner segment where I talk about all of the books that I have read this month. We'll start with the picture books. So this is called Ollie's Lost Kitten by Nicola, Killen. It is a limited color palette book, which I actually really enjoyed. The aesthetics, there's some copper foiling in it as well. It's about Ollie and Pumpkin, his cat, who are playing in the forest when they find a little lost kitten. And then they sort of try and allow the kitten to find their way home, try to find the kitten's home. My eldest daughter liked the aesthetic of this book. The youngest one got very teary. She did get upset that Ollie decided to return the lost kitten back to his home, to his owners. She just wanted Ollie to keep the kitten, and so that was an issue for her. But otherwise, it's a very sweet, quick, easy book to read with a really interesting illustration style. Then we have Christmas Crackers with Slinky Malinki. Now, Slinky Malinki, my kids adore Slinky Malinki. He is a really tricksy cat, always getting up to mischief, always driving his family bonkers. And my kids just find it hilarious. So we love this one in particular because the theme is Christmas as well. So easy to read, it's a rhyming book, but it's a lot of fun. And then we have The Dot by Peter H. Reynolds. So this is about Vashti, who is sort of not wanting to participate in art class because she believes that she cannot draw. And with the guidance of her art teacher, she comes to realize that art takes many forms and she can actually create masterpieces. Hello. And it's just a very sweet book with a lovely message, and that is The Dot. Yep. And then we've got a graphic novel here. Hey, Sylvie. This is Cat and Cat by Cazenove and Richez and Ramon, and it's called Girl Meets Cat. So I guess this would be middle grade, but it does read a little bit young, but it's just fun. It's about pretty much just all the antics of a cat. So the daily life of a cat and all the things that cats do. So I still enjoyed reading it myself. It's very cute. I don't know if you get tired of it though, like continuing on with the series, but as a standalone, it was a lot of fun and the illustrations are lovely. And then we have The Sisters, once again by Cazenove and William. This is called Just Like Family. So it's a very similar illustration style. My kids like that illustration style. And it's about two sisters. You've got Wendy, the big sister, and Maureen, the little sister. I'm really not sure how old they are. I feel like there's a big age difference. I feel like the big sister is definitely a tween, possibly a teen. So there were some things in this that were a bit odd, like the older sister still taking baths with her younger sister, and that's each to their own. But I was like, I don't think my 13-year-old would want to bathe with like her 8-year-old sister. But there were a lot of times when the older sister was either very young, like participating in the really young play of the 8-year-old, or she was acting more like a teenager and wanting to date boys and do the things that teenage girls tend to do. So I'm not really sure what age this is for, to be honest with you. My 11-year-old did like it, but yeah, I'm not sure. I can't really recommend it for a particular age because it's just, there's a bit of discrepancy between the actions of the older sister. I just don't, if I couldn't know what their ages were, I would be able to, but I don't think it's said. And I had a hard time trying to figure out how old the older sister was. And then we've got Bad Guys. So this is by Aaron Blabey. This is an old series, but they now come in these full color, gorgeous, glittery books with sprayed edges, like beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. My kids absolutely go bonkers for this series. I've started reading aloud to them and it's really fun. It's so silly, but it's just really enjoyable. It's about these group of animals, predator animals, that are trying to change their image from being bad guys to doing good things. And my kids just find it hilarious and it's just a fun read. It's definitely, younger kids can absolutely read this. It's very easy to read, but older kids can enjoy it as well. So this is something I would also recommend to kids younger than 8. But we've had an absolutely fun time reading it at night time and I just love the full color illustrations. And then we've got Neverlanders by Tom Taylor and John Samariva. So this is a spin on the Peter Pan tale. There were some twists that I did not see coming. It actually is quite dark for a book. This is definitely for kids over 8 years old, or, you know, tweens to teens. A lot of violence in there. There is death, parental abandonment, homelessness. So it does tackle some heavy topics, but I found it quite entertaining. If I were to rate it, maybe a 3.5 is what I would rate it. My daughter, on the other hand, didn't really vibe with it at all. I think it was a little too dark and weird for her, but this was Neverlanders. And then we have the book Big Magic by Sarah Armstrong. So this is about an 11-year-old named Tulsi who lives in a traveling circus with her mother and father. The women in her family have magic and what they refer to as big magic. They can do tricks and things. The circus is not doing well, and Tulsi's mother, to try and save the circus, performs this big magic feat where she transports herself into a parallel universe. So into a world where she also exists, but a different life if she'd made different choices. And they need to get her back. So Tulsi has been denied it's one of those cases where the parents don't allow the child to learn how to use these powers. It's like, no, you don't need to learn this. It's too much. It's too dangerous. And then they leave these children with no ability to either protect themselves or save the parents. The parents get into trouble. So Tulsi has to seek out the estranged grandmother, so her mother's mother, to get her to teach her how to use her magic. So Tulsi's grandmother did a bad thing, which she's not really told what it is, and was stripped of her magic for 15 years and banished. But the 15 years is up, so the grandmother has her magic, and Tulsi goes to her for aid against the father's will. And that's because the mother only has 1 month to return, or she will be stuck in this parallel universe forever. So Tulsi goes to see the grandmother, and this is where I have issues with it. I'm going to spoil this one, so if you don't want to hear the spoilers, skip to the next book. I did give this book, I think, 3 stars overall. So in this book, the grandmother is the bad guy. She is just a power-hungry fiend, and she likes to siphon magic off her daughter. And she used to go off into these parallel universes to do schemes and make money, and she would make her then young daughter come and retrieve her, which is very, very dangerous, which is why, understandably, the mother banishes the grandmother and tries to protect her daughter from her. But Tulsi, it's Tulsi's only option. So the grandmother does teach Tulsi how to get to the parallel universe, and when she gets there, she understands that the mother was unable to return because she arrived on the night of a big electrical storm, and that ruins your magic. And if you don't return within 24 hours, you're stuck there unless someone retrieves you. So Tulsi goes to find her mother. Along the way, she stumbles across the grandmother from this world, who is even more diabolical, and I'm going to say straight up like evil, just a nasty piece of work. And that grandmother tries to trap Tulsi and her mother there so that she can just siphon off their magic, because she discovers too that Tulsi has a lot of big magic. Lo and behold, she's even more powerful than either of them. And Tulsi and her mother have to try and escape the clutches of the grandmother in this realm. They do manage to do that. They lock away, they take all of her powers away. It's sort of hinted that that grandmother is going to find her way back into their world and probably wreak revenge. But they come back to the other world, and thank goodness the grandmother in their world does a selfless thing and gives up her magic to save the mother's life, because the mother was too depleted when she returned and she went into a coma and was going to die. So the grandmother was like, I'll save her by giving her all of my magic and living a life as a mundane human. So the grandmother in their world sort of has a redemption arc, but I find this a bit problematic to make the evil character a grandmother. I don't think it's really great to vilify grandparents, personally. I think it's probably not the best thing for a child to read. So I had a little bit of issue with that, the manipulation and the abuse of the grandmother. I'm like, I think this is like too, realistic. I'd rather the big bad be something that is not familial, so to speak. I think this sets it up for a second though, because the grandmother, the real evil one from the parallel universe that they left powerless, sort of vows vengeance upon them. So yeah, for me, the letdown in this was definitely the evil person being the grandmother. I just found it really ick, and Tulsi not being able to learn her powers from her mother. I have a big thing with parents and they're just like, it's for your own good. We're not going to allow you to use this gift that you have. And it just frustrates me. It's like hobbling a child, like strapping their feet together and being like, no, we're not going to let you learn to walk. Even though you have the ability to walk, it's just too dangerous. You could trip and fall, so you're just going to keep hopping around everywhere. So I just really find that sort of trope really frustrating. The father too was like, no help to Tulsi, just told her you're forbidden from trying to get your mother. And it's like, okay, dude, I understand that it's terrifying allowing your daughter to go to this parallel universe, but it's her mother. She has the ability to possibly save her. If you helped train her, she would be more equipped to go into this world and be able to come back. So it's just one of those things. It was a bit too many things that I didn't like about it. That's why I've given it a 3, and it just scraped into a 3, to be honest with you. And then we have Yesterday, Crumb and the Storm in a Teacup by Andy Sagar. This was absolutely delightful. I would probably give it at least 4 stars. It's about Yesterday, Crumb, who was cursed with fox ears, and she was sort of like an orphan. So Yesterday, Crumb ends up sort of being rescued by a raven from her terrible, terrible life where people treat her cruelly, and she finds herself with Miss Dumpling, who is a tea witch, and oh my god, I adore her and I want to become a tea witch immediately. But before she gets to Miss Dumpling, unfortunately, she's waylaid by the evil Mr. Weep, who puts a curse in her heart that if she doesn't reverse, she will be cursed forever. So while she's at Mrs. Dumpling's shop, Miss Dumpling teaches her how to be a tea witch. And I just want to read this one little part because I think it's absolutely lovely. So Yesterday, Crumb says, I'm pretty ordinary in all the ways that count. Ordinary is as ordinary does, darling, said Miss Dumpling with a shrug. The finest tea you can brew in the humblest of teapots, and don't you let anyone tell you otherwise. I hope I wouldn't disappoint you, said Yesterday, looking at the floor, or put you in any danger from that monster Mr. Weep. Sauces and silliness. My grandmother used to say that even the fiercest monsters can be slain. That goes for fear, sorrow, and loneliness as much as any demon or dragon. I notice you haven't touched your tea. She pushed the cup towards Yesterday. This tea is Dreamer's Dandelion, flavoured with sweet dreams and wild wishes. Miss Dumpling went on. One of my favourite witch brews. Have a sip and may it inspire you to do mad and marvellous things. It's just full of all of these beautiful little tea metaphors, which just warmed my heart. I absolutely adored them. She has her little ragtag crew, and they're going on this quest to try and stop her curse, and she's learning so much along the way. The issue again was with the bad guy, Mr. Weep. Spoilers here. Stop now if you don't want to read any further, but Mr. Weep turns out to be her father. And he's definitely not going to win Daddy of the Year award. He is an evil, evil dude. We think he wasn't always this way. Heartbreak turned him this way. Not really certain if her mother is alive or not. She did run away from Mr. Weep with their daughter and then left their daughter at a circus. Because that's what you do. You leave your daughter with a circus to become a freak show. So not really loving the mother either. We don't really understand what's going on in that dynamic completely. It's just sort of set it up a little bit. But Mr. Weep obviously is an awful dude. Yesterday decides not to stay with Mr. Weep and goes back with Miss Dumpling and the Raven and her friend as well, who's sort of like her. She ends up accepting her fox ears, which was something she was always ashamed of. And it's just a very sweet tale. It's very fast paced from the get-go. It goes straight into it. So I actually like that in a middle grade book. I think it's more exciting. I would continue with this series. Just it had a really cozy fantasy feel to me. Like, I mean, they're traveling in a flying tea shop, and the tea that they make, I loved reading about all the different magical brews and all the different magical sweets that went with the brews. Fun, and I really enjoyed it. I did give it 4 stars. Like I said, it was the fact that Mr. Weep was the father and all that sort of thing that I'm like, I don't love this. And he was just so freaking cruel. It was a bit much, but I did enjoy it and would recommend. So those are all the books that I read this month for Kids Corner. I hope that wherever you are having a really cool morning, afternoon, or evening. And as always, stay wild, Star Child.